Picture this. It's 10:30 p.m. on a Sunday. You're sitting at your kitchen table, staring at a brutally complex Excel spreadsheet glowing on your laptop. You are painstakingly trying to categorize every single transaction from the last month. You're trying to figure out if that $14 charge at CVS should go under groceries, health, or miscellaneous. You feel a tightening in your chest because despite making more money this year than you ever have in your life, there is somehow less at the end of the month. You make a rigid, restrictive plan to cut out everything you enjoy starting Monday. By Thursday, you're exhausted, you forgot about an annual car registration bill that just hit, you throw your hands up, and you order $45 worth of takeout on a high interest credit card because you feel like you deserve a break. That's literally me, or at least it used to be. My name is Gustavo, and I spend way too much time thinking about the mathematical architecture of wealth building and why smart people are chronically broke. If you're someone who feels like you are doing everything right, getting the promotions, earning the six figures, but you still feel tethered to a cycle of perpetual labor, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. The modern economic landscape has fundamentally shifted. Nobody is coming to save us with a defined benefit pension plan anymore. It's all on you. But here's the thing. Despite having more financial apps and literacy tools than any generation in human history, the United States personal saving rate has cratered. In early 2025, it hit an abysmal 4.4%. Compare that to the 1970s, when it was consistently over 11.7%. At the exact same time, consumer debt is breaching six-figure averages. We have a massive disconnect, and I am genuinely frustrated because the mainstream financial industry keeps pushing antiquated, restrictive dogma that completely ignores behavioral psychology and the actual mathematics of compounding capital. Today, we are deconstructing the 5 massive budgeting mistakes keeping you stagnant, and I'm going to show you the mathematically optimal frameworks to actually buy back your freedom. Mistake 1. The micromanagement illusion. The most pervasive myth out there is that to be wealthy, you have to be an accountant for your own life. You have to track every penny, use digital envelopes, and restrict yourself constantly. This approach systematically fails for 2 reasons: decision fatigue and expense prediction bias. Human willpower is a finite resource. When you force yourself to make a conscious, restrictive decision every time you buy a coffee or pay for parking, your cognitive processing deteriorates. By the end of the week, your brain is fatigued and you make massive financial errors. Furthermore, human beings are terrible at predicting the future. We anchor our budgets to predictable monthly things: rent, internet, gym, but we systematically ignore the non-monthly frictions: the $600 deductible when your kid gets sick, the new tires, the holiday gifts. When those hit, your rigid budget shatters, you feel like a failure, and you give up. Relying on willpower to manage daily microtransactions doesn't build wealth. It just transforms your money into a source of chronic anxiety. Mistake 2. The frugality paradox, the latte factor lie. This leads right into the second and arguably most annoying mainstream myth, the idea that you are broke because you buy avocado toast and a $5 latte. Here's what most people don't realize. You cannot outsave a structurally inflated lifestyle through micro-frugality. Let's do the math. If you obsess over saving $5 a day on coffee, you save $1,825 a year. Is that nice? Sure. But it is entirely eclipsed by the massive bleeding capital leaks in what I call the Big Three: housing, transportation, and food. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics data for 2024, the average U.S. household spends $78,535 a year. A staggering 50.4% of that goes solely to housing and transportation transportation is the ultimate wealth destroyer. Let me give you a real dollar example. In 2025, the average price of a new car is $50,080, financed at 6.8% over nearly 69 months. That's an $894 monthly payment. Traditional budgeting says, okay, that's an $894 line item. But applying opportunity cost reveals the true devastation. If a 30-year-old takes that $894 and instead puts it into a diversified index fund, yielding a conservative 8% for the exact 5.75 years of that car loan, they would have roughly $78,800. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. If they never contribute another dime and just let that $78,800 compound until they are 65, it grows to $788,000. The true economic cost of that standard car loan isn't $50,000. It is nearly $800,000 of lost future wealth. You can skip lattes for the rest of your natural life, but if you finance a luxury SUV you don't need, your balance sheet is mathematically destroyed. Mistake 3. Income as a proxy for wealth. Society assumes that if you make $200,000 a year, you are rich. But wealth is not your salary. Wealth is the delta, the gap between what you make and what you consume. There is a psychological trap called hedonic adaptation, paired with the Diderot effect. When you get a raise, you get a hit of dopamine. To sustain that high, you upgrade your apartment. But suddenly, your old furniture looks terrible in the new apartment, so you finance a new couch. Then your old car looks out of place in the new neighborhood. Your consumption rises in perfect lockstep with your income. The Experian consumer debt data from 2025 proves this is a crisis. Generation X, people right in their peak earning years, have the highest total debt of any generation, averaging $158,105. They are making the most money, but they are utilizing massive liabilities like home equity lines of credit to fund a premium lifestyle. They are living paycheck to paycheck in a gilded cage. Mistake 4. The cash hoarding fallacy. You've heard this a million times. Save a 6-month emergency fund in cash. While having a buffer is critical, especially since 37% of adults can't even cover a $400 emergency, universally applying the 6-month rule to high-income earners is mathematically flawed. Fiat currency loses purchasing power to inflation. If you have a family, your monthly burn rate might be $10,000. Parking $60,000 in a traditional savings account means that money is decaying. Worse, you are sidelined from the exponential growth of the equity markets. Traditional advice treats the absence of cash as the only risk, completely ignoring the silent, guaranteed risk of inflation erosion and the massive compounding penalty of uninvested capital. Mistake 5. The categorical demonization of all debt. Finally, the mainstream tells you to aggressively pay off every piece of debt you have immediately. Now let me be crystal clear. Revolving consumer debt, like a 24% interest credit card, is a 5-alarm financial fire. Kill it immediately, but long-term fixed-rate debt on an appreciating asset, like a 3% or 4% mortgage, is a powerful inflationary hedge. If you aggressively pay down a 4% mortgage while the broader stock market historically yields around 10% nominally, you are engaged in negative arbitrage. You are acting on emotion, not math. You are trapping your liquidity inside the drywall of your house and forfeiting the compounding returns of the market. The math of freedom, how to actually escape. Okay, I'm done yelling about what's broken. How do we fix it? How do we build an architecture that guarantees wealth? We use math and we automate behavior. Solution 1. Reverse budgeting, the automation antidote. Stop trying to track everything. Use reverse budgeting. We are flipping the timeline. Instead of spending for a month and saving what's left over, which is usually zero, you automate your wealth accumulation the exact second your paycheck hits. Your 401k, your Roth IRA, your taxable brokerage, these get funded instantly. The money vanishes from your checking account before your present biased brain can even conceptualize it. Once the macro goals are funded, you spend whatever is left over without an ounce of guilt. No spreadsheets, no categorization. You eliminate decision fatigue completely. Solution 2. The 1/3 rule and savings rate optimization. Most people obsess over picking the best stock, but during your accumulation phase, your savings rate is infinitely more important than your investment return. The savings rate is the percentage of your take-home pay that goes into wealth-building assets. Let me simplify that math for you. If you save 10% of your income, you have to work for about 51 years. But if you optimize your life to save 50% of your income, you only have to work for 16.6 years. Every single year you work buys you a full year of freedom. To get there, employ the 1/3 rule. Cap your structural living expenses, housing, cars, food, at 33.3% of your income. Pour the remaining 66.6% into balance sheet expansion. Solution 3. Coast fire and front loading. This is my absolute favorite concept. Coast fire challenges the idea that you have to save money for 40 years. Instead, you front load your investments aggressively in your 20s and early 30s until your portfolio hits a critical mass. Then you literally stop saving for retirement. You just let the money sit there and let compound interest do the heavy lifting. Because the exponent n, time, is the most powerful variable, money invested early is weaponized. If you want a $2 million portfolio at age 65 and assuming a 7% inflation-adjusted return, you only need to accumulate about $45,126 by age 25 to coast. But if you wait until age 55 to start taking this seriously, you have to come up with over $838,000 to hit the same goal. Once you hit your coast fire number, your financial stress vanishes. You can take a lower paying, lower stress job that just covers your current expenses, knowing your future is mathematically secured. As a dad to an 8-year-old, this is the ultimate goal. Buying back time while I actually have the energy to enjoy it. Solution 4. Tiered liquidity. Instead of a massive cash pile, we use a sophisticated 3-tier system to manage opportunity cost. Tier 1. Immediate access. 1 to 3 months of core expenses in a high-yield savings account. This is for true incidentals. Tier 2. Growth liquidity. Capital housed in things like treasury inflation-protected securities, tips, or a taxable brokerage. It grows faster than inflation, but can be accessed in a few days. Tier 3. Credit backstops. A home equity line of credit, HELOC, or portfolio margin. Now you might be thinking, wait, Gustavo, a HELOC has variable interest rates, and the bank can freeze it during a crash. You are 100% correct, and that is exactly why it is strictly a Tier 3 instrument. It is the absolute final parachute for a catastrophic, low-probability event. By structuring it this way, you keep the vast majority of your net worth heavily invested and compounding rather than rotting away in a checking account. The final boss is psychology and fear. If you actually start doing this, your peers will think you are crazy, and you will face some serious internal doubts. The biggest fear people have is sequence of returns risk, HERR. The fear that the market will crash the exact year you decide to stop working, permanently destroying your portfolio. It's a valid actuarial concern, but look at the data. A well-diversified equity portfolio using a dynamic 4% withdrawal rate has survived 96% to 97% of all 30-year periods in modern history. The only time it catastrophically failed was the Great Depression. You mitigate this by adjusting your spending slightly during down years, not by hoarding cash in fear. The second, much more insidious trap is one more year syndrome. This happens to high earners who mathematically hit their target, but their identity is so wrapped up in their job title that they are paralyzed to quit. They keep working just one more year to build an extra buffer. Do not fall for this. Time is the only non-renewable asset you have. Sacrificing your peak vitality years to hoard capital you will mathematically never consume is a tragedy. Conclusion. Look, the system is not designed to make you wealthy. It is designed to make you a compliant consumer. You have to opt out. Stop micromanaging your lattes and start structurally optimizing your housing and transportation. Automate your savings before you ever see the money. Front-load your investments, understand the brutal math of opportunity cost, and realize that true wealth isn't driving a $50,000 car, it's waking up on a Tuesday and knowing you own 100% of your time. If this deep dive helped reframe how you look at your balance sheet, please leave a comment down below with your biggest takeaway, hit the subscribe button, and share this with one person who needs to hear it.